అంటే అందరూ వచ్చారని అనుకుంటున్నాను. So good morning, my dear students. So today we are going to start a new experience. Of course, online classes you are all now a bit experienced here. But this is an experiment which we are carrying out today. Let us see how far it goes. So today we are trying to show you some virtual demonstration of clinical science. How this will be is, first I will just narrate the salient history points. What are the points to be stressed in the history? Then I will show you a video wherein it is self-explanatory. And in the meantime, I will be showing some of the photographs, and then I will seek your feedback. So that's how it goes. Let us see. So first, today we are planning to take about the examination of a swelling. So first of all, it is very important about the history of the present complaint. This is not a spelling mistake or my mistake. It is his story. It may be her story also. So our tendency is, whenever we see a patient, immediately we will put the hands on the swelling and then try to palpate it. That should be curbed first. First, let us listen to his story, how it started, all those things. Because what I believe is history alone can diagnose 70% of surgical cases. Whereas your examination will add another 15%, and latest investigations included, they will add another 10%. Finally, the final court of appeal, what we say is pathology, where a histopathological examination may even may not completely 100% it cannot diagnose. So that's why I have put 4%. So this 1% nobody can diagnose. The patient will be either cured by himself, or he may end up in some problems. So let us go to the present history. It can be dealt in 5 headings. First of all, we should ask if the patient complains of a swelling. First thing we have to ask is about that swelling alone. Then about the other swellings, if at all there are any, we have to ask about other swellings. Then what are the local symptoms? The area. It may be having some arteries, veins, nerves, or joints. We have to ask about the local symptoms. Then other systems, like say respiratory, CVS, abdomen, and others. Finally, we have to conclude with the constitutional symptoms, like say fever, loss of appetite, loss of weight, and other symptoms. Now, coming to individual ones, what are all the questions we have to ask about this swelling? First of all, what is the site? Because site bears, by site alone, we can diagnose almost 50% of surface swellings. Whereas duration is also important to know the nature of the swelling. Is it benign or malignant, or is it inflammatory? Because inflammatory, as you know, will be of acute inflammation, particularly of short duration. How it started, that is mode of onset, is also very important. Because inflammations will start all of a sudden, whereas malignant may start slowly but end up in a rapid fashion. Then size is also important, because huge swellings, though we think they are malignant, usually they are benign, like a huge lipoma on the back. Then how it is progressing, because as the swelling grows in size, it may have some secondary changes like say ulceration, discharge, bleeding, all these things. And melanomas particularly, they may start as a mole, and it may start increasing in size, it may itch, it may bleed, the surface may become irregular, the swelling may become irregular, and it may produce satellite nodules like that. Then, as I already told you, secondary changes also are important. Now, after you finish asking about the swelling, you have to ask about other symptoms. The most important other symptom is pain, because on pain only we depend to know the nature of the swelling. That is it a non-inflammatory or is it inflammatory, where it will be painful. And swellings in certain situations may produce other symptoms like say thyroid may produce difficulty in swallowing, or if it is malignant, it may produce even a recurrent limb palsy, which will lead to hoarseness of the voice. So in this category, we have to ask about the symptoms that are related to that particular swelling. And lastly, we have to ask about whether the patient is suffering with any other swellings, because some swellings tend to be multiple, like say a lipoma. Then what are called as satellite nodules. Already I told you about satellite nodules. In melanomas, they may spread under the skin by subdermal lymphatics and reach the proximal areas, wherein it may again aggregate and then produce a node. They are called as satellite nodules. Then inflammation or malignancy will produce lymph nodes also. So far we have finished asking about the swelling. This is very important in cases like thyroid and breast. Whereas some cases are spotters, where suppose the patient complains of a swelling on the back and you have seen a dark spot, it is nothing but a sebaceous cyst, like that. Then, as I told you, after the swelling, you have finished the history, you have to go for the local symptoms, function particularly. Again, I will go to example of thyroid, because thyroid can lead to hyper or hyperfunction. Similarly, the structures around the swelling will also have some change in the function, particularly suppose a swelling is on the knee joint, it may hamper the patient's knee joint movement. Similarly, suppose a swelling is there in the inguinal region and it is pressing on the femoral vein, the distal limb will be edematous. So, these symptoms, depending upon the site of the swelling, you have to ask. Then, systemic symptoms, like say respiration, more important is cough and hemoptysis, because a malignant thyroid swelling or a malignant breast swelling can spread to lungs and then thereby produce hemoptysis. Similarly, they can even spread to bones, and that will lead to bony pain. And sometimes, like a lymphoma, suppose you are seeing a case of lymphoma, it will produce hepatosplenomegaly. So I have to ask about systemic symptoms. Then constitutional symptoms are also important, particularly in inflammation, wherein there will be fever, whereas in malignant swellings, there may be loss of appetite, weight, malaise, and other things. Then coming to past history also, this is also important, particularly in special swellings like thyroid and breast, because suppose a patient says that he has a swelling previously, similar swelling previously, then you have to think of recurrence of the swelling. Then of course trauma will produce hematomas. Patient might have forgotten about the trauma, and he will come up after 1 month, new swelling in the thigh. Then you have to ask about trauma so that you can diagnose a hematoma of the thigh. Then previous surgery also, same again, a recurrent breast swelling can be malignant. And of all the diseases, tuberculosis is very important in surgery, because tuberculosis can manifest. Now that syphilis is on the way, tuberculosis, you have to give importance and then ask about past history of tuberculosis. Then personal history is also important, like say smoking. Here I will stop and then ask you about the smoking. Can you tell me what are the swellings that can appear if a patient is having a habit of smoking? Can anybody tell me the swellings that can appear on smoking? Yes? I have not received any so far. Gum swelling. So one person has answered gum swelling. Is it gum or you mean to say palate? Okay. That is a direct effect. Carcinoma of the palate can come. I do agree. Then I will give you a direct, yeah. Uvula. All are related to local. Recently you have finished that. Yes. Edema. No, we are in swellings. So I will give you a tip. Parotid swelling. Patient is a known smoker and he has presented with a parotid swelling. What may be the reason? I think it's a difficult question for you, but I think parotid is already over for you. Anyhow, mumps infection, you have written mumps. So mumps is a viral infection, isn't it? And mumps will come in usually childhood, whereas a smoker is usually an adult. Anyhow, I'll tell you, it is Warthin's, yeah, duct obstruction, yeah. Somebody has given Warthin's, good. So Warthin's tumor is peculiarly associated with the smoking. Of course, breast, you all know, smoking will predispose to malignancy. So now, so let us again go to our presentation. So family history. In what cases family history is important? Again, I seek your response. Family history is important in which malignancy? Which malignancy? of the swellings, surface swellings, which malignancy is predisposed to, is having a family history. Yeah, breast, very good. So like that, we have to ask the history. Then as I told you, let us stop here and then let us go to the examination of a swelling. So here, the author of this video has made elaborate. Of course, there are some mistakes I will point out as and when they are occurring. So let us start the video.
On inspection, first note the site of the swelling, that is the exact anatomical location, and the number, whether it is single or multiple. Some swellings have a typical position which is diagnostic of the swelling. For example, a postauricular dermoid behind the ear, or a meningocele over the back in the midline, or an external angular dermoid at the lateral end of the eyebrow. Then note the number. Most swellings but some are typically multiple. For example, multiple cutaneous swellings in multiple neurofibromatosis or von Reckling-Hossen's disease.
So I will stop here and then I will show you few photographs, and you have to tell me what is it. Okay, depending on site itself, you can tell the nature of the swelling. So what is this? Only on site itself you can diagnose this. Yeah? Anybody? Yeah, very good. So it is a ganglion. So it's a degenerative swelling of the synovial sheath, and then it is typically present over joints and tendons. I'll show you another one. Yeah, what is this? Anybody? It is present below the ear lobule. Present below the ear lobule, and if you see, ear lobule is a bit raised here. So what it can be? Yeah, parotid swelling. You can, yeah, correct. You can even see the typical boscillations. These are boscillated appearance. I'll show you another photograph. Yeah, carefully see this. You are finding a swelling in one place. So what is it? These are all dependent on the site you can diagnose. That's why I'm showing these figures. Yeah. All the three I got are all wrong. First person has said it is a branchial cyst. Second person has said submandibular. third, mastoid. I don't know what he means. Then another person said carotid body tumor. Only one person has said lymph node swelling. Now I will answer that. So, submandibular swelling will be here. Mastoid swelling will be here. Then branchial cyst will be here. This is the position. This is exactly at the angle of the mandible, just below the mandible. And you can see that there is, this area is called as jugulodigastric area. So this is a jugulodigastric lymph node, which is also called as upper deep cervical lymph node. And of the 7 stations, this is the second station. This is first, of course, submental, submandibular. Then this is second station. This is upper deep cervical lymph node. So that's why these 3 are the examples for the typical site. But sometimes we will have some problem also on the site. So I will show you that also. Yeah. This is a bit problem. I will show you the swelling. So this is the swelling. It is nearer to the parotid gland. It is nearer to the upper deep cervical. In these cases, what you have to do and what is your probable diagnosis? Anatomical. You need not tell me pathology. What is the probable diagnosis? Again, common sense tells that it may be a both parotid or lymph node. But if you go to anatomy, parotid is superficial to muscles, whereas deep cervical, as the name says, it is deep to the muscle there, that is sternomastoid muscle. So if you simply contract the sternomastoid muscle, if it is becoming less prominent, that means it is a lymph node. And if you contract the masseter by asking the patient to clench her mouth, then if it is becoming prominent, it is a parotid swelling. So sometimes it is not a Sparta. So you have to examine carefully, ask the history. If the patient is giving parotid symptoms, like say on chewing, is having she is having more pain and the swelling is increasing, then you have to think of a parotid swelling. Whereas suppose there is a local history of some sepsis, you will diagnose it as a lymph node swelling. So sometimes you have to use common sense. Similar swelling, I will show you another one. Yeah. This is another difficult, I will show you the swelling. Yeah, of course, though it is obvious. This is a swelling. And somebody has said branchial cyst. Had it been here, I would have diagnosed this case as branchial cyst. So it is below. That means it is fifth that is, they are called as posterior cervical. Suppose let us take this sternomastoid as the boundary. Anything anterior is called as anterior, anything posterior is called as posterior cervical. And it's also above the clavicle, so it is supraclavicular. And the nature seems to be, by appearance, seems to be a cyst. So can anybody tell me what it is? In that area, what will be abundant? I am giving a tip also. No, it is not thyroid. It is not cervical thyroid cyst. Somebody has written cervical thyroid cyst. It is, you may be meaning aberrant thyroid. Aberrant thyroid is actually, in fact, it's a secondary from carcinoma of the secondary in a lymph node, posterior cervical lymph node, or level 3 or 4 cervical lymph nodes from carcinoma of the thyroid. Both of them, you are correct in telling it may be related to thyroid, but it's not the thyroid. Blood vessel swelling, and somebody has written correctly cystic hygroma. Very good. So lymphocele is another person. Both mean same. Cystic hygroma. So, but in a patient of this age, usually cystic lymphoma, cystic hygroma or lymphocele means, or lymphatic cyst means, they are usually seen in children and adolescents, whereas this fellow is already gray-haired, middle-aged person. You have to be careful, and as most of you have pointed out, you have to rule out a thyroid swelling here. It may be a secondary from thyroid with cystic degeneration. That's why they are likened to berries. In thyroid, previously malignancy, previously we used to do what is called as berry picking, because these secondaries will attain a color of bluish green color and cystic. Of course, in this patient, I have operated this fellow, it is only a cyst. And another diagnosis which you have to keep in mind is a lipoma. So if it is soft, and cystic hygroma, as all of you know, will be having clear-cut, brilliant transillumination. Now let us go back to the slideshow, that is the video. So the number is important.
Multiple subcutaneous swellings in multiple lipomatosis or Dercum's disease. Now note the shape and size of the swelling. The shape may be a regular one.
Again, I will interrupt and then show you other examples. He has shown you multiple neurofibromatosis, that is von Reckling-Hassen's disease. Whereas another is multiple lipomatosis. If it is painful, we call it as Dercum's disease. I'll show you few more multiple swellings. Let us see how many of you can diagnose. It is very easy, of course. ఈ రావటం లేదు అన్నిసార్లు స్లైడ్స్ ఇవ్వటం లేదు. నెక్స్ట్ స్లైడ్ రావాలంటే అది రావటం లేదు. ఓకే, కీప్ ఇట్. దీంతో చేసావా? ఓకే, గుడ్. దీంతో ఏది నొక్కావా? సో నౌ this is another example of multiple swellings. All these photos are from Gayatri Hospital only. These are not my own previous photos. I have been taking pictures from our own patients only. Now tell me, it is an easy thing, of course. Example of multiple swellings. So what are they? I thought it is easy, but I'm not getting any answer so far. Multiple swellings in multiple lipomas. Lipomas, what is the, all of you have put multiple lipomatosis, but neck is not a favorite site for lipomas. Lymphoma, somebody has written. Lymphoma means, what is that? Lymphatic cyst. Of course, it's a cystic degeneration. I'll show you again the photo so that you can carefully see again. And you will see, though there is slight inflammation, not much, of course, not completely red. Slight inflammation is there, or I can tell you it is not red. It is a bit purple, characteristic of one particular disease. You can diagnose even the disease also in this case. Okay, I'll give you a tip. It's a complication of one of the diseases. Yeah. All of you are, nobody is thinking of multiple swellings. In the body, you have multiple structures. Very good. Somebody has written tuberculosis. Had you been more specific, I would have been very happy. But good, you have put it tuberculosis. It is tuberculous lymphadenitis. I think tuberculous lymphadenitis is over for you. So there are some 5 stages of tuberculosis. This is so first stage is the tuberculous lymphadenitis, then periadenitis, second stage, then third stage there will be hold abscess, fourth stage collar-stud abscess, because it will, the abscess because of the pressure will puncture the deep fascia and come out subcutaneous. Now this patient is in that stage, so it is the fourth stage of tuberculosis. Oh, that is the collar-stud abscess. That means both sides of deep fascia here. So here the lymph node is here, swelling is here. Similarly here also, these are all multiple lymph nodes in a patient, known case of tuberculous lymphadenitis, and it is getting liquefied. First it will be called as cold abscess. That's why there is not much of a reaction here. Redness, all those things are not there, shininess of the skin. Then it will go to the subcutaneous tissue. Then you call it as collar-stud abscess. Finally, fifth stage is even skin is punctured, and then the pus will be released, sterile pus usually, and then it will end up in a sinus. So multiple examples, you should not limit yourself to neurofibromatosis or lipomatosis. Lymph nodes is the common example of multiple swelling, particularly in lymphomas, in tuberculosis, multiple lymphadenitis can be there. Then, of course, there is another diagnosis that is called as multiple diaphyseal achalasia. Then you have multiple sebaceous cysts, particularly on the scrotum and the scalp. So like that, you can think of any number of multiple swellings. Then I'll show you another, no, only this one I'll show you. Okay. You can see another multiple swellings on the foot, left foot. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swellings. So what are these? It's very easy, I think. Yeah, ganglia, multiple ganglia on the foot. So multiple swellings means we have to think of all these possibilities. Now let us go to again the video where now yeah.
like spherical, ovoid, or kidney shape, or it may be an irregular shaped swelling. Then measure the exact size in centimeters using a measuring tape. Measure in
So here he is asking us to measure. In inspection, we are not supposed to put anything. So this is one wrong method he is demonstrating. So forget about this. Inspection, we are not supposed to measure. Only in palpation, we are supposed to measure. Inspection only our guesswork. How many centimeters length, how many centimeters in the breadth. Okay.
longitudinal and transverse axis, and where possible, the depth. The depth of the swelling can be better judged on palpation, so measurement with a scale may also be done during palpation. Now examine the surface of the swelling. Does it have any characteristic color? For example, a capillary hemangioma, as seen on the forehead of this child, is bright red in color, or a malignant melanoma, as seen on the heel of this patient, is black in color. Next, is the surface smooth or irregular? Note the typical filiform branches over a papilloma and cauliflower surface of a squamous cell carcinoma. Now note the skin over the swelling, whether it is normal, inflamed, or ulcerated. A tense, shiny skin with prominent veins.
So surface, as he is showing, but routinely how we examine for surface is it smooth like this? Surface is smooth. Is it irregular, as he has shown for melanoma? Then is it lobulated? So for lipomas, it will be lobulated. And I have shown you the bosilated appearance of a parotid swelling. Then nodular swelling. So these are the 4 or 5 varieties of surface. I will demonstrate. So as I have shown you on the board, So they may be either smooth or lobulated or oscillated, nodular and irregular. Right. We'll again proceed.
Suggests a sarcoma. A black punctum on the skin over the swelling is diagnostic of a sebaceous cyst. Red edematous skin over this sebaceous cyst indicates inflammation or an infected cyst. Note the redness and shininess of skin in this injection abscess of the right buttock. Presence of a scar of previous surgery suggests that the swelling is a recurrent one. And edematous skin.
So again, scar, you have to think of, suppose the patient gives history of some previous injury or burns, and then it's a resulting scar. Then suppose the patient has again come with a swelling or ulceration over the scar. You have to think of what? Yes. Board camera angle. Oh, just wait. Camera angle little downwards. Okay. I hope now it is okay. So I'll again write on the board. So surface is it so is it smooth? That is smooth. Yes. Is it lobulated as in a lipoma or oscillated as in a case of parotid? Then is it nodular like this in a lymph node or in a thyroid gland? Or is it irregular as in malignant? Okay. So now let us go to the video.
With multiple pits like an orange peel, termed as peau d'orange appearance, suggests an infiltrating malignant lump blocking cutaneous lymphatics. Now inspect the swelling for a few seconds for any visible pulsations, that is, a movement or increase in size synchronous with each heartbeat. Swellings arising from the arteries like aneurysms will be pulsatile, as seen in this aneurysm of the ascending aorta bulging through the anterior chest wall. Lastly, depending on the site and type of the swelling, a few specific signs should be looked for. If the swelling is over the abdomen or chest or spinal canal, ask the patient to cough and look for an impulse on coughing. A visible increase in the size of the swelling, synchronous with the cough, is termed as an impulse on coughing, as seen in this inguinal hernia. If the swelling is on the limbs, inspect the distal limb for any pressure effects like edema or nerve palsy. Note the foot drop caused by a bone tumor in the upper tibia. Similarly, if the swelling is on the front of the neck, look for movement on deglutition. To revise, on inspection, note the site of the swelling and whether it is single or multiple. Note the shape and measure the size. Inspect the surface and inspect the skin over the swelling for inflammation, punctums, scars or veins. Then look for pulsatility and site-related specific signs such as impulse on coughing if it is related to abdomen or chest, or pressure effects if it is on the limb. On palpation.
Now we'll stop here and then I will again show few of the interesting photos which I have collected, and then you can tell me the diagnosis if at all you can. Yeah. So far, this issue has not come with us. So, because we have been talking about site, size, shape, everything, but we have not talked about this on inspection. Can anybody tell me the diagnosis here? Skin tag. Okay. All of you are skin tag. Papilloma. Yeah. So both are correct. Skin tag is a layman term, whereas papilloma is the correct term. But you should be more specific. I will again show you. It is papilloma. I do agree. What is it exactly? You should be more specific about it. What is this here? Yes. It is hanging actually like a dried grape. So it is called as a pedunculated papilloma. Pedunculated papilloma. So somebody just now, after hearing me, has answered it as pedunculated papilloma, correct? So this is a pedunculated papilloma. So on inspection, you have to say that it is hanging with a small stalk. Okay, that's how you can uh, tell. Now let us go to the next slide. This is a bit difficult for you, I do agree. So, yes. Oh, I have shown you this already or what? So many answers. 1, 2, 3, 4 persons I have already diagnosed this as correct. Maybe I might have shown them or their guesswork is 100% correct. You are correct. It is a sebaceous R. Very good. In had you bought this Bailey and Love so far? How many yes I will get? I want to see Bailey and Love. How many of you have bought? Yes, sir. Oh, they are pouring in good. So in Bailey and Love, in the first pages, you will see a huge sebaceous R, and this is a small one. It's a sebaceous R, and it's very difficult to demonstrate any sign there. It is hanging like a thorn there. Only thing is, this area is very much having this sebaceous gland. So it's a sebaceous R. Now let us go to the third one. Yeah, cases may not be typical always. You should be having once the patient is telling that he is having something, you should believe him. That's what I told you in the beginning itself. It is his story. You should believe. You should not say no. You are not having anything. Is the patient is having anything or nothing? Is on the back of the hand. Hand means that is upper. That is arm. Back of the hand. Yeah. Anything is having. Somebody has put a diagnosis of injection abscess. Injection is given above or below the deltoid insertion. Lymphedema. Lymphedema may not be localized like that. Always common things first. Of course, I do agree injection abscess and lymphedema are common. But common things means I'll show you where exactly the lesion there. Then you may be having the, see, back of the arm. And if you carefully see, there are few depressions also that we call it as, I'll tell you once you get the diagnosis. Bursa, there is no bursa there. Bursa will be at the joints. This is exactly in the middle of the back of, or just above the elbow. Lipoma, good. So there is a typical appearance also is there. Lobulated appearance is there. So this is a lipoma, right? So sometimes it is the common sense and your guesswork that will be correct. So don't always go by theory. As our professor used to say, textbooks don't bleed. So we should be ready with practical knowledge rather than theoretical knowledge in examination, right? So for today, I think we'll stop here, and then in the next class, we'll talk about the palpation of a swelling, right? Okay, thank you. Hope you liked it. If you have any experience, you give a feedback to me so that we can improve it somewhat better than this. Okay, thank you. Right. End చేసేనా